We live in an era where emotions have become a spectacle. Social media, messages, indirect messages, everything is used to expose a wounded heart in the hope of receiving comfort, attention, or validation. But there is a harsh truth that few have the courage to face. The more you reveal how much you have been hurt, the more you place yourself below the person who hurt you. Most modern men have learned to respond to pain in the wrong way. Some run after it, desperate, asking for explanations, trying to understand why they were left aside, ignored or humiliated. Others indulge in the theater of revenge. They hit back, talk loudly, walk away pretending to be indifferent, when inside they are completely affected. In both cases, the mistake is the same. You showed that you were touched. And here is the first point of the Machiavellian code that separates the common man from the respected man. The pain you reveal is the weapon she will use again. When you show hurt, the other party gains something that should be exclusive to you, mastery over your emotions. She knows she's upset you, she knows she's in control. And from that moment on, any step you take is no longer yours. It's a reaction to what she did. True power comes when you are able to feel intensely, and yet not react as expected. This is where the central concept of this introduction comes in. He who feels, falls. He who is silent, commands. This doesn't mean being cold. It's not about denying what has touched you, or pretending that everything is fine. That would be self-deception, and self-deception is as weak as explicit neediness. What the strategic man does is different. He feels, processes, but chooses the moment and the way to react. Why? Because he understood one of the most powerful laws of the social game. Whoever controls their own expression controls the perception of others. Imagine the following scenario. A woman decides to test your limits. She changes her tone. She becomes cold. She starts to ignore you. She waits for you to ask questions, chase her, demand explanations. Every second of her silence is an invitation for you to humiliate yourself in search of answers. Most men fall into this trap like a pawn running towards the queen in chess. Predictable, easy to knock down. Now imagine another scenario. She changes. She becomes cold. And you watch. Silence. No visible emotional reaction. No desperate movements. You go on with your life. You maintain the same posture. And when you talk to her, you limit yourself to the essentials without showing any sign of impact. At that moment, something powerful happens. The narrative changes. She begins to question herself. Did he notice? Did he care? Did I lose control? And here is the Machiavellian detail. She begins to feel exactly what she wanted to cause in you. That's the game. You only dominate another person when they stop understanding what you are feeling. And that only happens when you learn to not give in to the impact. It's not about ignoring the pain. It's about not allowing it to turn into exposure. A strong man is not one who does not feel. He is one who feels, but does not need to prove anything to anyone. The armor of emotional mastery is made of silence, presence, and lucidity. It is not made of ready-made phrases or motivational statements. It is built with internal discipline. You need to stop screaming inside, hoping the world will hear. The world does not listen. The world tests. And the more you show that you've been touched, the more they push the knife in. Machiavelli said, "It is safer to be feared than loved when you cannot be both." In the emotional field, this translates as follows. The man who controls the impact is more respected than the man who gives himself over to drama. Your dignity is not in how much you feel, but in how much you show, and most importantly, in what you do with it. Turning pain into mastery is an art, one that few master, and that is precisely why so few are remembered with respect. Most prefer to live in the theater of the wounded man, where everything is emotion, impulse, hurried response. But those who learn the code, they become untouchable, because the world doesn't know how to affect what doesn't react. Stay with me until the end, because in the next few minutes you will learn the 3 Machiavellian keys to controlling impact without saying you're hurt. And once you master this, you will never be the same again. You will be respected, In silence, feared by the calm, admired for the lucidity. Now that you understand the importance of not revealing pain, it's time to go further, because holding the impact is only half the game. The other half is transforming that impact into real dominance, unshakable presence, and absolute control of other people's perceptions. The man who just endures in silence is still on the defensive, but the man who feels and transforms is in command. This is where the Machiavellian code comes in. 3 practical, invisible, and devastating keys that allow you to control the impact without ever admitting you're hurt. The first key is strategic silence. Most people react too quickly. Have you been ignored? Have you sent a message? Have you received an indirect message? Have you responded? Have you felt diminished? Have you justified yourself? This type of behavior is not strength, it is desperation. Every immediate reaction is a surrender of your emotional center of gravity. You are saying, "Yes, I felt it, and yes, you have power over me." The Machiavellian man does the opposite. He does feel it, but he does not react as expected. His silence weighs heavily. He does not disappear as an escape, but as a form of domination. He does not respond because he has already understood that the expectation of a response is, in itself, a trap. Does she disappear for hours? He moves on with his life. Does she show up? He says little, without drama, without excuses. And in this simple movement, she begins to ask herself, does he care? Have I lost control? That is when the game changes hands. Silence is not absence. It is concentrated presence. It is pure psychological control. Those who do not react force the other to deal with the echo of their own poison. The second key is the transmutation of impact into value. You will be hurt. That is inevitable. The difference is in how you use it. The common man suffers, sinks, destroys himself trying to understand why he was hit. The lucid man, on the other hand, transforms the blow into raw material for greatness. He does not respond with words. He responds with evolution. Was he rejected? He does not beg. He grows. He disappears for weeks, then reappears stronger, more centered, more selective. While the other waits for his emotional reaction, he offers posture. And this posture begins to rewrite perception. The pain that could previously expose you now rebuilds you. It is, as the code says, you do not react to the height of the pain, you rise above it. The best response is not to justify, argue, or scream. It is to become the kind of man who no longer needs to respond. You will be so emotionally distant from the place of the wound that any attempt to provoke you seems childish. The provocation dissolves because you are no longer there. The third key is mastery of the script. Few people understand this, but the emotional game is a staged play. There are roles, triggers, and expected reactions. If she knows that your disappearance will make her jealous, she will test it. If she knows that harsh words will unbalance you, she will repeat it. And if you always react the same way, congratulations, you have become a predictable character in her script. The Machiavellian man changes the plot. He notices the script and changes the outcome. Does she provoke? Does he respond calmly? Does she accuse? Does he listen, but does not defend himself? Does she say, "You've changed"? Does he say, "Maybe I just stopped trying to please her"? His calmness deconstructs the tension. His mastery breaks the game. And the moment she realizes that she no longer has emotional control, respect begins to emerge. Applying this requires coolness, but above all, it requires clarity. You can no longer be predictable. If they expect you to speak, keep quiet. If they expect you to explode, smile ironically. If you expect desperation, show your presence. Because the dangerous player is the one who feels everything, but gives nothing away. He is a mystery that no one can decipher, and for that very reason he is respected even when he is silent. These are the three keys: simple on the surface, brutal in practice, strategic silence, transmutation of pain, mastery of the script. Master these three, and you will be the kind of man who not only controls the impact, but rewrites the way others treat you. A man who doesn't beg, doesn't argue, doesn't justify himself. He observes, grows, and changes the entire game, without saying a word about the pain he feels, and that's precisely why he wins. You can master silence, you can transmute pain, you can write your own script, but there is one silent, sneaky mistake that can still destroy everything. Negotiate your own value. This is the most common and most costly mistake a man can make. It's not being rejected, it's not being left, it's being accepted for a distorted version of himself. A version shaped by the fear of loneliness, the anxiety to please, the need for validation. How many times have you found yourself tolerating something that hurts your essence just so you don't lose someone? How many times have you swallowed your words, recalculated your limits, pretended to be fine, accepted emotional crumbs, all out of fear of being alone? This is the cruelest part. When you start negotiating what is non-negotiable, you move away from your center, and you lose what is most valuable to you, your dignity. The most dangerous cell is not the one locked with chains. It is the one decorated with empty promises, intermittent affection, and crumbs of attention. The man who remains in this cell believes he is still free because the door is ajar, but he never leaves. He gets used to the bare minimum. He justifies disrespect. He romanticizes the other person's lack of emotional control. And worse, he blames himself for feeling that he is not being loved enough. But here's the brutal truth. You are not unloved. You are misplaced. He is offering himself as king, but accepting treatment as a pawn. And when you start accepting less than you deserve, you send a silent message to the world: my value is flexible. And believe me, that is the phrase that destroys respect. Because no one respects what can be bought out of fear. No one fears what begs for attention. No one admires the man who trades his truth for the illusion of companionship. The deadly mistake happens when you confuse acceptance with love. Real love doesn't require you to destroy yourself inside. It just happens when you remain whole and yet are still chosen. But when you need to edit yourself, keep quiet, bow down, give in too much, adapt your truth to fit into the other person's void. That's not love. It's despair. It's fear, disguised as affection. It is an emotional prison painted with the colors of passion. And the most tragic, you know you're cheating on yourself, but you pretend to be mature. You tell yourself that you are avoiding conflict, that relationships take effort, that everyone has flaws. Of course it does, but no defect justifies you accepting the unacceptable. No story between two people is worth the price of your integrity. And here comes Machiavellian logic. True mastery begins where the negotiation of self-worth ends. Machiavelli was not talking about romantic love, but he was talking about power, presence, command. And he knew, like few others, that perception defines everything. If you allow yourself to be seen as someone who adapts too much, who gives up too much, who backs down every time you feel like you're going to lose, then you've already lost. Not the relationship. He lost himself. A man who negotiates his presence is not a man. It is an emotional servant. He's always waiting, always walking on eggshells, always afraid of bothering, of pushing away, of being left. And here comes the most painful contradiction. The more you try to be accepted, the less you are respected. Because respect comes from clarity. Yes, firm. From the unverbalized but present limit. From the stance that says, I can like you a lot, but not to the point of abandoning me. And this is where most fail. You think you'll win her back by being more understanding, more accessible, more emotionally available, but what really regains respect and desire is getting back on track. It is the restructuring of personal value. It's the silent cut, the strategic absence, the visible transformation, the ability to look in the mirror and say, if I'm going to lose myself trying to keep you, then let you go, but I'll stay whole. This clarity is not arrogance. It is lucidity, and lucidity scares, because it shows that you are not manipulable, that you feel but don't beg, that you care but you won't accept anything in the name of it. The man who carries this posture bothers those who are used to dominating him emotionally. but it also attracts. It attracts not through fear, but through respect. Because deep down everyone feels it when they are faced with someone who does not bend over backwards to please. This man may be left behind, but never forgotten. It can be ignored, but never diminished. Because it has become rare, and what is rare cannot be explained. It imposes itself. This man understood the essence of the game. Either you are true to your truth, or you will be shaped by the expectations of others, and every time you mold yourself too much, you go away from yourself. Until there's nothing left but a faded reflection of who you once were. So keep this in mind. Respect comes from coherence, from the silence that does not run away, but takes a stand, of the separation that is not revenge, but restoration, of the absence that does not scream, but teaches. Explaining dignity to those who cannot see is like throwing pearls before swine. You can justify everything. You can beg. You can rationalize. But those who are not ready to recognize your value will always test how much you are willing to forget them. So don't forget. You were not made to beg for presents. You were meant to be remembered with reverence. But that only happens when you stop negotiating who you are and start living as if you know your worth. Because in the end, the world doesn't need you to prove yourself. You just need to take a stand. Clearly, firmly, with silence. We have reached the final point of this code. And here it is no longer about strategy or posture. Now what is at stake is legacy. It is the memory you leave. It is the silent impact that remains even after you leave the room, because the true objective of this whole process is not just for you to be respected in the present, it is for you to become unforgettable, but not unforgettable through excess, not through shouting, material conquests, or making yourself necessary. An unforgettable man is one who, even when absent, continues to be present in the memories of others as a reference of lucidity, presence, and silent strength. And this only happens with one type of man, that which does not bend. You need to understand this with brutal clarity. Giving in is not giving in to arguments or making intelligent concessions. Giving in is nullifying yourself. It is leaving yourself to inhabit the desire of another. It is erasing your essence to maintain a presence that deep down diminishes you. The world is full of men who live like this, emotionally bent, silently bitter, swallowing what they feel to sustain empty relationships. These men are forgotten, not because they are weak, but because they never showed themselves whole. They never made a real impact. They were shadows of what they could have been. But when you choose to live with emotional integrity, something changes. You start saying no without having to justify yourself. You set boundaries with your gaze. You walk away without drama. And most importantly, you bear the loss. Because the man who refuses to bend will inevitably lose some people. It will be misinterpreted. You will be seen as cold, hard, distant. But here is the truth that few have the courage to face. If you're going to lose someone, let it be for being whole, because the only real loss is that of oneself. Everything else is a readjustment of path. And what happens to the man who walks with this posture? He begins to attract a different kind of respect, a silent respect, a respect that often comes without praise, without applause, but that reveals itself in gestures, in the way people hesitate before crossing your boundaries, in the way they are careful when confronting you, in the absence of games and manipulation. Because they know, they feel, that they are in the presence of someone who does not negotiate his truth. And this kind of presence has weight. It has density, it has a mark. The world today is saturated with superficiality, with relationships that begin and end without leaving a trace, with men who adapt to their surroundings like warm water to any container. And precisely for this reason, when someone appears with clarity, with a solid identity, with a calm that does not beg, he becomes unforgettable. He makes an impression, because he is the contrast. And it is in the contrast that value is revealed. An unforgettable man is not the most talkative. He is the most centered. He is not the most handsome, nor the strongest, nor the richest. He is the one who carries consistency. He is the one who does not fall apart at any disapproval. He is the one who prefers to walk alone than to walk without direction. Because he understood a Machiavellian truth that few reach, you don't need everyone's approval. You just need the respect of those who really matter. And this respect does not come from sweet words or declarations. It comes from the coherence between what you say, what you feel, and what you do. It comes from the absence of internal contradictions, from the silence that says more than 1,000 speeches, from the firmness that does not waver in the face of need, from the look that reveals, I may like you deeply, but I will never lose myself to keep you close. That's the difference. The common man seeks to belong. The lucid man seeks to remain faithful. The first is always shaping itself. The second is always positioning itself. And while the first one is always asking to be accepted, the second one is remembered with respect, even by those who didn't have the maturity to stay. This is the Machiavellian path. It is not coldness. It is lucidity. It is emotional maturity. It is such great clarity about who you are that any attempt to destabilize you dies before it is born, because you no longer play the other person's game. You do not get involved in emotional disputes. You observe, you interpret, and when necessary, you step back with a calmness that is frightening. Because those who have control over themselves no longer need to prove anything. And if he is to be remembered, let it be as such, as the one who never gave in, as the one who inspired more by what he did not say than by everything he did say, as the one who walked firmly even when no one understood. Because deep down, everyone knows how to recognize when they are faced with someone who is at peace with their own truth. And if you've come this far, it's because something inside you no longer accepts the role of the man who begs, of the man who justifies, of the man who sabotages himself to keep the other. This man is dying. And whoever is born now is someone different, more firm, calmer, more whole. So keep this last truth in mind. If you are going to lose someone, let it be for being whole. Because the man who walks in his truth is never alone. He is aligned with the destiny that respects who he truly is. And if this message touched you, share it. Send it to someone who is forgetting their own value in the name of shallow affection. Together, let's free a generation of men who no longer want to be accepted with a mask, but respected with truth.